What are you wearing?
The hockey player. Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
Who are you, Blues fans? We're bleeding blue with you. Let's go Blues! Let's go Blues! Let's go Blues!
BlueNote Fan Report. Oh, do you know the BlueNote Fan Report? The BlueNote Fan Report. The BlueNote Fan Report. Oh, do you know the BlueNote Fan Report with the Hawaii Blues fan? Aloha and welcome to the BlueNote Fan Report on a Sunday before the draft. And have we had an interesting weekend? Yes, we will talk about it. Along with me, joining me today is my great, the one, the only, the man, Lance, the drop, the Scott. Hey, Lance, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Wow, that was a pretty good intro for me, huh?
Yep.
Oh, man, I had to throw that Muffin Man in there. It's all over. We've had an interesting weekend. We're going to talk a little bit about the draft. We're going to talk about free agency, but first I want to talk about what happened yesterday. Or it's still in the works. It's still out there. It's still bubbling. You know, I see this going all the way up until the draft, right? That is when I see it being the end. That's when it kind of goes away. And that's what I'm talking about is it came out yesterday from Frank Cervelli that the the Philadelphia Phillies had a deal in place to trade Kevin Hayes to the St. Louis Blues. Now, there have been a whole bunch of rumors about this deal. All of these things that were in it, you know. They talked about Hayes. They talked about Krug on our end. Who else was mentioned? I heard Kasparov, or I can't even say his name now. Kasparin. You know what I'm talking about on our end, right? Flyers. I said Phillies. I'm sorry, Flyers. Sorry. Just talking real quick. I want to know what you think about all this. I know what I think. We talked a little bit offline. What is your initial impression of what you've heard so far?
Well, my initial impression is number one, I think Torrey Krug deserves a little more respect. All these Blues fans hating on him because he won't waive his no trade clause. You're a veteran in this league and you played long enough and you've proven yourself to be a 30, 40, 50 point defenseman in this league. You deserve a modified no trade clause, a no movement clause, whatever you want to call it. You deserve that. And if you get that in your contract and a team comes to you and says, we want to trade you somewhere, you have every single right to say no. And I really don't blame him on his side. Number two, Kevin Hayes is okay. I mean, he's a big body, 6'4", 6'5", 200 and something pounds, and he can be physical in the corners. I mean, he's not a bad player. Is he a great player? No, he's not. And, you know, Blues fans already complain about, especially Kyrou, but somewhat Thomas, that they're not great two-way players. They need to play two ways. You know, they've got to fit in the system. Well, I tell you right now, Kevin Hayes does not fit in this system on air quotes because he's terrible defensively. And I'm not just going on his minus 22 rating from last season. I've watched this guy all his career. He is a me first player and he's terrible defensively and he's not worth $7.1 million. And, you know, Guy, you and I talked about this. the whole age thing. What did Armstrong say?
24 to 26.
Yeah, and how old is
31?
Yeah. So that totally. So is Doug Armstrong lying to us? Yeah, I mean, it makes no sense. If they could get him for a song, maybe. But I still think that 7.1 mil. If you guys are bitching and moaning about Kyrou and Thomas's money, just wait till Kevin Hayes comes here, and after a year or two, you'll be bitching and moaning about that $7.1 million.
I think they'd be crying about it right off the bat, even if Philly takes half of it. Mm-hmm. Right. By the way, Lance, can you try and up your mic?
Yeah. Yep.
Guys are having a hard time with your mic.
Yep, I'll do that. Hold on.
No problem. I got to be careful. I can't up your volume on my end that much more, because then it'll blow my ears out.
That's all right. I got it.
Okay. I first of all, I seen Erickson Krieger saying that get Krug off the team. I don't have an issue with Krug on this team. I've never had a problem with Krug on this team. And the reason I never had a problem with Krug on this team, and I'll tell you this, when it comes to free agents, I will almost never, ever, ever have a problem with a free agent coming to this team, especially when they had other choices.
Yep.
Because that meant they wanted to come here.
Is that any better?
He didn't come here and get more money here. He probably got, now he might have gotten the top of the top here, but I think he could have gotten the same amount somewhere else too.
Yep.
He came here because of what this, but he wanted to be here. And I don't fault him at all for saying, no, I don't want to go play at Philly. Right? And when you go sit there and say, oh, wait a minute, why aren't you going to, okay, that's better now, Lance. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. I mean, we do what we can here. For me, I look at this trade and I go, okay, if I'm looking at the needs of this team, what are the needs of this team? And I think that they're everywhere except one spot. There's one area that I don't think we need any improvement or anything. Well, we don't need to bring in somebody. Do you think so? Do you think there's an area where we don't need to bring in somebody?
Yeah, goaltending.
Goaltending, exactly. I think that we are set. I think Hoffer and Bennington are going to be fine at goaltending. Mm-hmm. Now, the other issue that this team has that everybody keys on, I think I think they key on it the wrong way. The wrong way. Oh my goodness. I got a junk guy coming in. Let me try and save myself here. Sorry. There we go. Sorry, man. This guy's gonna drive me up a wall, but hopefully I got him. I'll ban him here in a little bit. No, I did ban him. Okay. There we go. I got nothing to worry about. Well, he'll probably be bouncing on, but hopefully if Wendy shows up, he'll take care of it for me. Okay, but back to what I was saying is there's everyone thinks that the defense is this big old problem. Mm-hmm. And to me, the defense is the scratch on the surface. Mm-hmm. It's not the infection underneath. And the reason I say this, I think that the offense is a bigger issue than the defense. Mm-hmm. You look at how far down offense fell last season. We went from having 9 guys with 20 goals to what, 3?
What were we, number 6 or 7th in the league in offense the year before?
No, we were like 3rd or 4th.
3rd, because I know it was top. It was around 5 or so.
Right.
Yeah, we were really good. And like I told you, when Montgomery left, we're going to.
If you took, and I said this, if you took this year's defensive numbers and had last year's offensive numbers, this team makes the playoffs.
Yeah, they do. Yep.
Now, if you switch that, if you take last year's defensive numbers with this year's offensive numbers, I don't think we make the playoffs. Right? I don't. We'll let Shaggy come in here in a second. So to me, while everyone goes, you got to fix the deep. No, you fix your offense first. One of the things in the NHL that is so prevalent is how important the offense is to your defense. It's like the NFL, where the best offense is a good defense. In the NHL, the best defense is a good offense. It's the opposite. If your offense keeps the puck in the offensive zone, gets a solid cycle going on, I know everyone goes, oh, you got to get on the forecheck. I think the forecheck is going to become the steal in baseball. Let's see if anybody gets that reference. Do you agree with me, Lance?
Yeah, somewhat, yeah. Yep.
What about you, Shaggy? Do you agree with that statement?
Don't see a reason why not.
Yeah, eventually I want to get Shaggy's take on Kevin Hayes since he was a Ranger.
Yeah, we'll get it there. I mean, I know. I'll go there, but I want to finish this point. In baseball, in the 80s, oh my God, the steal was the greatest thing in the league, right? Guys stealing 60, 70, 80 bases a year was the norm. Now, the guy that leads the league with like 30 stolen bases. It's gone away. It's there, but it's not as important. Right? To me, that's what's happening in the forecheck. It's there, but it's not as important. No, Lance, there is not just one way to win. There's not. And you're right. I could be 100% wrong. I could be. But in my eye...
Here's the thing. The forecheck works when it works because you have to have the right players to make it work. If you've got a slow team that forechecks against a fast team, you're screwed. You're totally screwed because you're going to get stuck in the defensive. You're going to get stuck all the time. And you're going to get stuck all the time in the defensive zone or even in the offensive zone. You've got to have a nice balance. You forecheck when you need to and when you can. You can't just be forechecking every single time that puck goes over the blue line into the end. You can't do that. I mean, you agree with me, don't you, Shaggy?
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem that especially nowadays where it's been a fast league.
Yep.
You sort of the rotation of the puck has sort of a little bit been gone away from because people just want to skate right into the offensive zone, get that puck in deep, and then try to get a quick shot on goal. That's why a team like the Rangers, in all honesty, has been such a struggle because they keep sending that puck in and just trying to play that fast game, yet the puck rotation isn't there to set up games. So any team that could just simply keep up to your speed will obviously be able to hold you down in 5-on-5. You'll be decent in power plays because that dump and chase, you have that extra guy to get there. But in the 5-on-5, if you don't have that rotation, you're just going to be skating around and getting tired and just switching lines and not really creating an offense. When I watched the Oilers, I always said the thing they were missing the fact that they were trying to go way too fast for themselves. They do have that puck rotation with some of the greatest players, but they try to play too fast for themselves. And if they do that, look at I don't know how to actually look this up. I'm sure that there's some guys that know this. The average speed of teams. I think the team that actually was slower was the Golden Knights, was a slower, gritty team.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they
and they landed up winning because they were able to defend the fast teams. They weren't necessarily slow players. They were just able to connect. They were able to defend that speed.
And the Knights are not a forechecking team.
No,
right.
and Shaggy, you're spot on. That's one of the reasons the Rangers didn't win. That's one reason why they didn't go forward in the playoffs.
And that's why
every game, and that's why.
Exactly. And I could even tell you, if you want a proof to that, look at who they went after in middle of the season. Who did they bring back? Tyler Mott.
Yep.
Why would you bring back Tyler Mott if not for the fact that he has that speed and you wanted to play that game? If you look at who else they got Tarasenko.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly a guy who you have for you want a quick deflection, you need a guy inside the middle because they weren't bringing, and a guy like Kane destroyed it because Kane couldn't keep up because he was not healthy.
Nope.
So you put in there and you put him on the ice for a lot of time. It wasn't like Kane was coming on for 12 minutes.
No.
He was coming on for 20 minutes. You're wasting 20 minutes with basically a 4-on-5. You know what I mean? And he wasn't creating a great rotation at all because it was all about the speed. And the Rangers 2 years ago was able to play with that speed because they were the fastest team.
Yep.
And they were able to, Kreider was able to really do much better on the deflections. And I think also they were better with Kopp and guys who are just all good at that, while you're bringing guys from different teams with different style of play. I think if you want to connect this to the Blues, they had none of that. Their speed was off. They couldn't get into the offensive zone even with the speed, and the rotation wasn't there. So you landed up the only way you beat the teams is once you got in that offensive zone, they were much better at getting it, but they weren't there all the time. So that doesn't happen. A guy like Kevin Hayes, right? He has been, on the downfall almost. He actually had the most points he's had in 4 years last year. And that was with a terrible team. That just tells you the fact that if you give him guys on his line, he's fast. I loved when we had Carl Hagelin, Kevin Hayes, and St. Louis or Callahan or whatever it was, and you had that speed, but they were so good at using that speed, not necessarily to beat you up ice, but to just get into the offensive zone faster than you could set your defense up. And that's exactly how they made every year. They were one of the best teams in hockey. And the reason why they lost is because they were all speed, no big. And that's why the Kings destroyed them, because the Kings just hit them. They were more physical. And that's why that's why they lost that.
And I don't know if you saw it earlier that I like Hayes. He's big. He can be physical, but his defense is lacking. And you know it here, Shaggy. Everybody in town says the Blues have to have two-way players. He's got it. And Kevin Hayes is a good offensive player. But like you said, his best year was last year in 3 or 4 years. He hadn't had a good year in 3 or 4 years before that. He's a flashy type of guy. He can get you 5-6 goals in 2 or 3 games, and then you don't hear from him in 7-8 games.
Well, the problem with getting a two-way guy is, can you name me how many except if you're the Golden Knights, can you name me how many two-way players there are on, let's say, the Bruins this year?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. How many two-way guys are there on the Avalanche from 2 years ago?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. Okay, so there's not a lot of two-way guys. No. And I'll give you an example of a great two-way guy that probably, I mean, if you look in general at like the best defensive minded offensive, there's guys like Kirby Doc out there who's supposed to be known as one of the better defenders. Yet I think it actually took away from his offense this year because he was so trying to play that two-way player. I find that a guy like, I'm going to bring from a Rangers reference from Mika Zibanejad, he brings such a great idea on defense, but I find that he sometimes makes mistakes on defense a lot. Yep. But, I will take a guy like who could play his offense to a key than a guy who you're going to tell me is going to give you pretty good offensive production and could also play defense. Yep. Because if I'm looking to build a team, I don't want to just bring in a guy who's okay in each area. I want to bring in a guy who could just right away make a huge impact at one position. If I'm lacking a shot taker, I'm walking out to a guy and saying, hey, you know what, Mark Scheifele, you're not necessarily a great, whatever, but you got good at face-offs. You can help our face-offs. And that's why the Hurricanes re-signed Jordan Stoll to a 4-year deal. That's the only. That's exact. He was not necessarily great at any position, but he had one thing that immediately made them better by the fact that he won them faceoffs.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, I want guys that are responsible defensively. I don't have to have a guy that's a great two-way player. I want a guy that can put up some numbers but be responsible with the puck. That's it. And I think sometimes certain players or certain teams and fans of teams think that if a guy isn't a great two-way player, such as Alex Steen was for several years with the Blues, and Ryan O'Reilly was and still is pretty good as a two-way player, I want guys that are just responsible. I don't expect them to be, full two-way players, a guy that scores 15, 20 goals and puts up 15, 20 assists, but he's known as one of the top two-way defensive forwards in the league. I don't necessarily need that. I just want a guy that's responsible. And I think both of you will agree with that.
Well, for me, right, I look at the two-way player has the same thing as the switch hitter in baseball, right? 15 years ago, 25% of the players were switch hitters. 10, 15 years ago, a good 15, 20, 25, 30% of NHL players were two-way players. Well, you know what? That takes, with baseball, it takes a lot hitting a baseball is probably the hardest thing to do in sports. And then you try and do it from two sides, get one side and go for it. And I think that's what's happening in hockey. You're seeing either an offensive player or a defensive player. You look at Ryan O'Reilly. Ryan O'Reilly at 31, 32 should be able to should be a guy that brings in, a 7.5 to 8 million, his contract, but he's not, because he's gotten his body beat up. It's taken its toll. It's shortened his career. I think guys are starting to see that. What is missing in hockey to me is the one play that would really open all this up. And some teams do it. Some teams do it effectively. Some teams don't. But it's when the guy brings the puck in. It's not the dump and chase so much. It's the guy that brings the puck in, gets to the blue line, and fires the puck along the board so it comes all the way back around, and then the trailer catches the puck on the opposite end of the ice, and what that does, that allows the back three to come in, and now you've got passing lanes, and you have a cycle. This is where the game is going to start going. You're going to start seeing more, and I think the more I think about what was going on with the Blues, I think they were trying to implement that, but the guys didn't get it. But you look at teams like Vegas who implemented that system even late this year, and guys got it. They understood it wasn't as important to come down the middle as it was to come down the wings, and the guy coming down the wing was ready for that puck to come all the way around the boards. What happens is when the dump and chase, the defender just goes straight to the back of the boards. Well, when you swing that puck around, the defender doesn't know where to go. The defender doesn't know where to go. And this is the thing that's happened in the league. And I look at Kevin Hayes and I go, okay, you're an offensive player and I get it, but where do you fit in the Blues' current system? And I don't see it. I don't see where he fits in. I don't see where a $7.1 million number 2C fits in to this group. It just doesn't to me. We have a solid top line. Thomas, Kyrou, and Buchnevich are going to be fine. We do need something in the secondary end, but we need a scoring line, not a checking line or I don't know, not a back checking line. You need another scoring line, and I don't think Hayes gives that to us. Right? Okay. I mean, am I right, wrong, left, no, yes, no, maybe?
I'm okay. So I'm a little bit not for that, and the reason why I'm not about that is because he has not been on a line he has been on a line with pretty good players, but being in Philadelphia with all that negativity, very possibly getting out of there. I'll tell you the most interesting thing I saw with Kevin Hayes, and although the plus minus stat does not mean much, he was never a minus with the Rangers in a year.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
He was never with the Flyers. It pretty much went every year. His minus went up and up and up. And that's where you see that it wasn't just a question of him. It's not because I don't believe that he caused the minus. I just believe that just showed you how bad the Philadelphia Flyers were.
Yeah.
Hey, Marilyn. It just shows you how bad the Flyers were. When you see how bad a team like that is and you see a minus on the board of like minus 22, that's not on him. Okay, that's not the player. Okay. He has been a positive for that team. He has been a big veteranship on that team. And the reason why they're letting him go and the reason why they're actually asking for a decent amount of stuff is because they know that he actually is a valued player and just has not been in the right system.
I definitely think he's a valuable player. I just think the Blues fans may be upset that he's not that two-way player because they've got it in their mind about that. And I like his size, and he can score. I just think at 7.1 million, there's other things they can do more with that money. I know a lot of people want the Blues to bring in DeBrincat, but his agent has said he wants 8 years between $8 to $9 million a year. And if I'm the Blues, I stay away from that. I love Alex DeBrincat, but
I actually feel like DeBrincat's going to land up on possibly crazy enough, either the Hurricanes, because they seem to just want to trade for every one of those guys, and they really are looking for that next thing to carry them over the edge. I could see if it was possible that the Maple Leafs somehow try to fit him in their system to try to just go all out this year, if that was possible. I do not feel like he's going to land up on a team that says, "Hey, DeBrincat, hey, you want to come build with us?" No. Like that's not an attraction for DeBrincat. DeBrincat needs to be on a team that's already built. I look at teams that have made the playoffs this year and want to take the next step. I even will include into that the Seattle Kraken as that is a possibility that I can really see, because that's a thing with no pressure, amazing fan base, and you get to play with a team that literally no one guessed what they would do.
Actually, that team's got more pressure on it than you think they do.
No. I understand that, guy, but that's not a pressure on the players. It's a pressure on the system.
Yeah. Well, the thing is they came into the league really with no pressure. Yeah, I did. I skipped it on purpose. They came into the league with really no pressure, but now because of what Vegas has done, now they have that pressure to match it.
I disagree. I disagree. I think they just took pressure off. Because when you add a team to the league and they stink for years, and then until they finally get good, everyone goes like, why do you add them? Like you got like every chance in the world to build your team, and this is what you did. But when you see them actually get there, I believe that they were actually a team that could have made it further, if not for the fact that they had the ill experience and they were not a team before, and they were a quite new team. I think if that team was like that, if that team had all played for another year, if this exact team plays next year, I think they get further. Okay, I think they are an excellent team. They are so physical. Their forecheck is beyond, and they have the speed to be able to get back, and they played a great defensive game. They had one of the best scoring defensemen in the league with Jared McCann. They had guys like the guy who I wanted the Rangers to go all out for with Yanni Gourde. I thought he was the perfect guy the Rangers needed for their third line, and they didn't get him. I wanted Yanni Gourde really, really badly. He was my go-to guy, and then he went to the Kraken. I was like, shoots, they just got a hell of a player. And Yanni Gourde is a guy who's a leader. He brings it down on the ice and off the ice, and he has been on winning teams his entire career. So that's a guy. They have an excellent team, and you bring in a guy like DeBrincat, and then you take Shane Wright and you put him on a third or fourth line and say to him, look, we're not asking you to be on our top two lines. We're not asking you to be a big player. Go out there and play hockey. Play with us. You have a free spot on our third or fourth line until you prove that you can't play. And I think that'll help Shane Wright as well, not being on that first or second line. That's my secret team for him, really. But back to the Kevin Hayes thing, what's interesting about Kevin Hayes is that he was a great teammate in general, and he has a great positivity. He's been on bad teams. He knows what it's like. Guy, wouldn't you just want to bring in positive players?
Yeah, hold on a second. I want to handle something real quick. Hey, Mike, I'm not being rude. Unfortunately, on YouTube, I have been getting trolled, and this troll likes to use other people's names, so I have to be very, very careful what comments I put from YouTube. And your comment, I mean, to be honest, why would I put that up there, right? I mean, there's no way that's ever going to happen. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but I'm being forced to be a dick, if you get it. I mean, and honestly, Mike, if you want to take your like back, take your like back. It's, there's nothing I can do about that. I can only be me. I can only handle what I can handle. And because of people out there that think it's fun to spin me up, I try not to get spun up. So I skip comments. I know People love getting their comments, but when they do things, when they put real comments, great, I will post them. But when it's a comment just to spin me up or a comment to be funny, I'm going to bypass it because it doesn't help me and it doesn't help you. And that's how I feel.
It's a waste of time talking about it.
Yeah, well, no, I just wanted to be fair with it. Okay, let's get into the draft.
Oh, boy.
Let's get into the draft. I think we beat the Kevin the trade thing to death. We've talked about it. I'm freaking. So the Blues have the number 10 pick, and I picked up. I finally got it. I broke down, picked up my draft preview, right, and I've been scouring it for a couple days now. And when I look at this draft preview for the Blues, I look at between 6 and 15 because those are the guys that are possibly going to be there at number 10. And I'm going to read off the guys at 6 to 15. And I'm going to ask you if anybody's name leaps off at you. Because there's one name, when I kind of read about it, this guy leaped off at me. So you have at number 6, according to the Hockey News, Jabor Dvorsky. At number 7, Oliver Moore. At number 8, Zach Benson. At number 9 is the defenseman David Ryanbacker. At number 10 is Brandon Yeager. Number 11, and I'm probably going to pronounce his last name now, is Edward Saleh, I guess, because he's Czech. I know it's not Sale, so probably Saleh. Number 12 is Andrew Kristall. Number 13 is Ryan Leonard. Number 14 is Sandin Pellikka.
Whoa.
I can't pronounce his name. I guess that's as close as I can get.
That's all right.
And then number 15 is Colby Barlow. You go any deeper than that, considering you have the 24th pick. I think that you're reaching now.
The only one I would really badly disagree with you on is Ryan Leonard. You have him way too low.
Which one?
Ryan Leonard.
13.
I have him 7th.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just going off of.
I was just telling you. I think you've got a lot of great ideas in there, and I've got a few guys I'd like the Blues to look at, and I don't know how you guys feel about it. I think after the top 4 to 5 players, it really becomes a crapshoot. I know a lot of people, he's a first-round pick. He's going to be good for years. No, I think after 5 or 6, you take the best player available because most of these guys aren't going to be able to help you for 2 to 3 years. And in 2 to 3 years, people say, well, we need defense. In 2 to 3 years, you may not need defense due to free agency and other things happening. You take the best player, I think, after 5 or 6, and you do it that way. At least that's my opinion.
I added one more thing. So I didn't know in general, like when I was younger, when it came to the draft, especially the NHL draft, unless like the Rangers had gotten a crazy player in the draft and it was big news, I never kept track of who they drafted, right? I always looked afterwards who they drafted and read like some article on these players. Every single time I read these articles, it was like, oh, this is the perfect player for the Rangers. They picked the guy, he matches their system, blah, blah, blah. And every time I read these articles, I'm like, okay, let's see how they're doing. And then I look at their team and I go, well, they didn't develop them at all. And you have a guy like Capocacco coming out or Lafreniere, right? These guys didn't necessarily show up to what they're supposed to be. They're not the Connor McDavids, right? Lafreniere was supposed to be like the craziest guy in the draft, blah, blah, blah. Look at him. They're thinking of trading him. So the guy that I actually would suggest to the Blues, and this is just guy, you could look into him. I don't know the draft well. I look at guys, I read about guys just randomly. And there's a guy who does stick out to me as a pretty good player is Nate Danielson. I don't know what you have. Nate Danielson.
I have him 23rd is what I have him.
He's 23rd. He's probably in the 20s over there. He's a guy, when I read on him, is a guy where I think he fits into what the NHL is becoming and and a guy who could he's literally what you want in a player he's a fast player. He's got fantastic skating. He's great at getting the ball at the puck into the neutral zone, which is something that I'm just telling you is
Yeah.
That's something you want in any player. A guy who's good at the neutral zone, I think, is so good. He's got the speed and he's good in the neutral zone. When I read that, I said, 1 second. He's also a good hockey player.
Yeah, no, well, Nate, for that 25th pick, that's where you could look at him. I would not look at him at 10.
I would look at him at 10. I would look at him at 10.
If you're seriously looking at him, you take your 25th pick and another pick, or your 29th pick and something else, and try and move up to get him. But I don't see him at 10. Now,
I honestly
Go ahead, sorry. I was just going to say, I don't see him lasting even to 22nd because he's got great hands, great vision. He always seems to be where the puck is, kind of like Shaggy said. If he continues to work and grow, he's going to be a number 1, number 2 line guy. I really think he's going to be that.
I think he's gone. I think he's gone by 15 for sure.
And again, if that's the case, you can still use your picks down there to come up.
I understand that, but
Blues have done that in the past.
Here's what's going to happen. This is why I said to Guy that I want him to be in the. I commented last time. I want him to be in the trade room, but he can't say anything. He has to sit there and just take in whatever they do. And he has to sit. I know he'd be like, yo, I'm going to the game and I'm sitting next to this guy and I'm doing that. I'm going to be in the room and they're inviting me and I'm going to have good food. I'm going to get to see this guy. And then he's going to come onto the thing and invite me and then tell me, yo, you're going to be jealous. I'm sitting next to. And meanwhile, he can't say a word. They're going to draft guys and he's sitting there.
I wouldn't last 15 seconds.
Yeah. 10 seconds in. Security's being escorting him out while he's going, dude, what are you doing? You're running the system.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for me, and my original question, we'll get back to my original question, of those guys that I read from 5th to 15th, right? 6th to 15th, was there a name that leapt out to you? And there was one that leapt out to me, and a couple of guys caught it, and it's Benson. I look at Benson now. The Hockey News has him as a Brad Marchand type player. If you can get a Brad Marchand type player at number 10, right? Now they've got him listed at 8, and okay, go up. If that's where he's on your board, use a pick and go up and get him. Use something and go up and get him. Move up 2 spots. To me, moving up 2 spots in the draft would be use your first this year and that extra 3rd round pick next year we got from the Rangers for Tarasenko. That's 2 spots.
I would not give up that much to go up to him.
And the thing is, I don't find
you're talking about going up 2 spots. You're giving up a 3rd round pick next year. That's all you're giving up extra.
Okay,
a 3rd round pick next year.
The problem is that a guy that's a Brad Marchand type player, in my opinion, that's the exact guy that if he doesn't do well is a waste of a top 10 pick.
And
because
he's really undersized.
He's undersized. He's 5'10", 159 pounds. Let me tell you something. All right, I'm 5'10", 159 pounds. That's me. That's literally my size. Okay, when I play hockey. Okay, there are guys that are huge. And I get out muscled by these guys. Okay,
He's still got growing to do.
I understand that. I understand that, but you do understand that that's a guy who's not growing much taller, and if he puts on too much weight, he's not skating well. So
yeah, but you know what? You take away Marchand's antics, he's a 100-point player.
He's a 100-point player because of the fact that he's been a success at that size. He's been able to connect his body and his size and his speed towards the game. If you ever watch his one of the things that I call it, they call this in the NHL 2K, NHL and on right. If you play NHL on Xbox or whatever you do, they call it like puck on a string or something like that, right? String of a puck, whatever it is. Puck on a string. That's what it is, right? And he's able to hold on to that puck even with his speed. If this guy can't do that, or this guy cannot connect himself to the NHL's size, he's a waste of a top 10 pick easily. He doesn't even have an advantage.
Well, they got him at 8. He's going to go in the top 10. I'm almost certain of it. Now,
I think he drops.
I
think he drops.
The other big question mark in the top 10 is, and I'm going to kill this name, Mateev Mikov. Okay, I added a Vich. Mateev Mikov. And the issue with him is, first of all, there's two issues.
You mean Matvey Michkov?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Is it Matev?
Matvey.
Okay. Mateev Mikov. There's two issues with him. First of all is the political issue, right? With everything going on with Russia, that is going to affect every Russian player, period. End of story. It's going to affect them either in the U.S. or in Canada. There's nothing else you can do about that. The second part of this is he has a rock solid 3-year contract with the KHL. Now, most guys who sign these contracts with the KHL always have a buyout in them for the NHL, so they can, buy out and go to the NHL. He doesn't, and he doesn't because of the political climate.
Guy, let me tell you something. You ever heard of Vitaly Kravtsov?
Who?
Vitaly Kravtsov.
It slips my mind at the moment.
Okay, he was on the Rangers this year. They landed up trading him, and then he landed up this offseason back in Russia. He had a deal with the KHL. It landed up making one of the worst. Forget about Russia. It made one of the worst connections between the Rangers and Kravtsov. He landed up getting into fights. He didn't want to be on the Rangers until they finally told him, look, we're not trading you. We'll bring you up. We'll let you play. And he wasn't successful. And he went to other teams. He was okay, but no team signing him back because of the way he was. Another example was, that's probably the best example, okay? Why would you? I think he'll drop, but it's not worth the Blues, especially a team like the Blues, who are going through a change, to bring in a guy who's going to go ahead and be a bad person for the system. That's part of the thing you have to realize why Shane Wright dropped. He dropped because when they spoke to him, he was just not a good player to work with. In the NHL, you're not paid enough, or they'll say, we don't care about your attitude. Here's money, just play. They don't have that. They need to fit you into your system and give you money that is going to fit into their cap.
Yep. And Shaggy, if you remember Brian Burke saying that Yakupov was the worst interview ever. I've heard GM say that he was one of the worst, one of the top 10 worst interviews ever.
That's right. And not only that, if you ever noticed, and I'll tell you this, if you ever noticed in hockey players, except for one player, okay, I'll tell you a good story, guys. All right. I was at the Islanders Bruins playoff series about a couple years ago. And actually, if you check on YouTube, I'm actually wearing Islander gear in the video because my wife was a big Islander fan and we just got married. And I said, I'll wear.
Sweet of you. Look at what marriage does. It turns a Rangers fan into an Islanders fan.
No. I honestly wore it. I honestly wore it because I said I won't wear a single player except she really liked one player. And I said, I'll wear that player's jersey and I'll wear the cap and I'll look like a Rangers, like an Islanders fan. And that's it. Anyways,
was it Everly? Did you wear an Everly's jersey?
No, I would.
If I married a Blackhawks fan, there's no way I would wear any Blackhawks gear.
No, so basically, my brother-in-law was heckling Pasternak the whole time, saying he's a little 12-year-old screaming at him, "Go back to Boston!" He's screaming to the glass, and then basically he went to the to try to get a stick from him, and Pasternak actually gave him his stick during the break. Anyways, that game, at the end of the game, I forgot if the Bruins won or the Islanders. I think it was the Bruins that won. And as Marchand is walking into the stadium, he screams at the fans, "Bleep you!"
Yeah.
And this is to the fans. Yeah. And when that happens, it just I'm just telling you that no one's interested in Brad Marchand. If no one wants to deal with these type of players. Most NHL players, except for Marchand, are just such nice people. I've never seen these players have these moments where I've seen it before with like football players. I've seen it in other situations in which, there was like they ignored fans or whatever it is. I haven't seen that. There's so many great moments that happen but that's because I feel like number one, it's because the players that are playing, it's not easy to get into the NHL. You really have to be skilled. You're also giving up money. Because at the end of the day, you are not, you are obviously, Hey, look, believe me, if I go to a Rangers game, my wife's wearing Ranger gear. She's not, no way, she going to the Island
Good for
gear.
you.
Yeah, how do you call it? But
Well,
you
I
don't,
just want to say one thing about Mitchkov real quick. I'm
Yeah.
getting old. I lose my train of thought, and I don't mean to butt in, but right now, his skill set right now is second overall in this draft. Right now, his skill set, I would say, is second. Fantilli is close. You could swap them out at second or third. My concern with him is, yeah, Ovechkin came from the KHL and he was great. And there's been other guys come from the KHL that are great. But I don't ever judge KHL players based on this. Yuri Laterra won the MVP in that league. What did he ever do in the NHL? It's a fine line there with those Russian guys. Don't get me wrong. He could come over and after the for the 26-27 season and just be a game buster. But he could also come over and be a flop because he's already said he doesn't want to play anywhere else but Washington. And to me, that causes a huge issue if he doesn't go to Washington.
Yeah, no, it's obviously. So that's the other thing about this, right? This is the thing that's getting missed. How long do you have your number one picks rights for? If I remember right, it's 3 years. It's only 3 years. After that fourth year, if you don't sign them, they're a free agent.
No, it comes in sooner because there was a player, the Blues, Colorado drafted a guy in the late first round, early second round, was supposed to be a good player, and he never panned out in Colorado because he got overweight and was lazy. And 2 years later, another team picked him up and took his rights and signed him, and then the Blues ended up signing him, and he never amounted to a hill of beans.
Oh yeah, but
I think it's 2 years. I might be wrong.
No, I think it's 3. I'm pretty sure it's 3. Right? My issue with this
is 1 second, Guy. Can I ask you a question? What's the difference in I'm not sure. I don't know this well. What's the difference between the pay or the way it works between let's say your top 10 pick or a 25th pick? Is there a difference in pay?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
right.
Huge difference.
So is that going to go? Does that go into it? Because is there even it's not just like at 25, and you want to move up for a player, right? You don't want to move up, let's say to a higher amount, and then have to bring in a player for, let's say, more, where it's a bigger risk, where you're paying the player more, you're getting stuck into contracts.
It drops significantly once you from 1 to 5. You're talking big dollars. Right. You're talking guys that are not making. You're talking guys that are making close to $2 million a year right off the bat, where the league minimum I think is $775. Right. A lot of these guys on their initial contracts are making that $775 or maybe $800,000. They're making that lower level money. Right.
Hey, Guy,
but I know it drops significantly once you hit like 5 and 10. It drops significantly.
Guy, an entry-level contract is normally a two-way deal, and the maximum, now this was for the 22-23 season, the maximum you can pay him is $925,000 annually. That's the maximum.
See, I thought Wright got more than that.
I just looked it up on a lot of the breakdown of what draft picks get paid.
Okay.
And it says entry-level contract's a two-way deal, and the maximum salary for a player that was drafted in the 22 draft is $925,000. But there's
so it's not like the NFL. It's not like the NFL. It's not like NBA. So these guys are.
You can also give them bonuses. So let's say you gave him $925, and let's say if he plays in more than 30 games in the NHL, you can give him a bonus. But the base salary can only be $925,000.
Well, see, that's exactly what I'm saying right here. Is that's what I think is going to happen. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, you can maybe look it up, but I think you only hold on them draft rights for 3 years. If he's got a 3-year deal, there's a chance that you don't get him back. You never get him. You waste a top 10 pick, or better yet, a number 5, number 4 overall pick on a guy that may never play for your team and was never set to play for your team. This isn't a guy that's going to college. This is a guy that has a set contract with no buyout clause, from what I understand.
No, yeah, he has no buyout clause. He's in the same type of contract that what was his name? The guy that I couldn't stand, the little spark plug guy that played for the Blues, and then Armstrong brought him back.
Blaze.
Huh?
Sammy Blaze?
No, this guy was a Russian. Went over to the KHL. I can't think of him. A little guy.
Oh, Sobotka.
Sobotka. Yeah, he could not be bought out.
Wow, I pulled that out of my ass.
I kept thinking Sakboka, but that didn't sound
Sobotka.
Right, so, yeah.
The Vlads, Vladimir Sobotka, Vladimir Tarasenko. So AC says it's time to sign vary 2 years for Canadian players, NCAA player duration of their eligibility, and foreign players varies by age, country, and league. I mean, I have to look it up. Oh, he's Czech. Yeah, but he was playing in the KHL for a while. I knew that. Right? So that's my issue with him. That 3-year contract in the political climate, I'm sorry. If I'm a GM and I have picks 3 through 10, I'm passing. I will let that guy go. And you know what? Think about this. I'm going to throw a name out there, and I want to know. Now, you guys might know this, so don't answer right away.
Can I say something real quick? There was a question somebody put it. Assad put that Butt is better than Michkov. No, Butt is not. I have Butt at number 35 from Russia. That's
Who?
what I have him going as number 35.
Who was it?
Daniel Butt, Butt. I have him 35th.
Yeah, I don't see him on here.
He's a left
I don't see the comment.
Yugoslav, Russia. Yeah, it's right there. It says Butt. Hold on, let me look at it here. It's right below AC. It's between AC Generator. It says Butt is better than Michkov at 8:48 p.m.
Hold on.
I like him, but I have him 35th.
Yeah, I don't see the comment. So
yeah, you got Robert Morton, LOL. Then you've got AC Generator, Hot Take, Michkov, and then you got Butt is better than Michkov, and then AC Generator says time to sign varies 2 years for Canadian players. It's right above that.
Okay, there's the hot take. Is that what you're talking?
Right down below that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, but I seen that and I thought he meant butt. So I skipped that comment. Right? You're saying
I have him 35th. I think most places have him between 29th and 50th.
Daniel Butt, BUT, that's probably he's 31st in Hockey News.
Yep, I have him 35th.
Right? Yeah, 31st in Hockey News. No, so so if I'm going to throw a name out there, and you guys might know this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to throw this name out there. I want to know if you know where he was drafted. You guys, I'm pretty sure that one of you guys knows this, so don't answer right away. I want to see if anybody that's watching knows this. Martin St. Louis. Where was he drafted? The Hall of Famer, guy that won, 2 cups. Where was he drafted?
It wasn't high.
I'm giving my fan base a chance. I know AC Generator probably knows this, right? If I'm a GM, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to pass on a guy that becomes great. You know, we look at and Shockey. They missed him. Martin St. Louis was an undrafted free agent. He was completely missed, and that was the year that Pronger was drafted second, and I forget the name of the guy. I was reading about it. That was drafted first overall. That was, a huge bust like Yakupov, but and he made the comment, no one remembers who was drafted second. Yeah, Pronger said he ate a shit sandwich on that one. Daigle, right?
Daigle, yep, I remember Daigle.
Yeah, Daigle. So here it is. If I'm a GM and I'm in that pick when Michkov comes up, I pass. You know when I take him? If I'm a GM, you know when I take him? In the 3rd round. I will give up a 3rd round pick and wait the time for him. I'm not giving up a 1st round pick. Now this is a little different than a college guy. A college guy, a guy in his freshman year of college, I have a chance of bringing him over every year, right? He goes out there, has an amazing freshman year. I can go, hey, dude, you know what? You just earned yourself that max contract, or 2 years or 3 years or whatever. Are you ready to come? And you know what? I'm willing to do that. But for a guy that has a set contract that it looks like it's a rock solid contract, and he got a bit of an attitude, I'm not wasting that pick. I mean, if you want to fire me over missing the possible Hall of Famer, great. But I don't think so. I think that he could be the Ryan Leaf of this draft, when I really think that the Ryan Leaf of this draft is Bedard. I'm not sold on Bedard, and I know that is as hot of a take as you can get. I am probably the only person in the world.
You are. Whoa. First of all,
just real quick, I like him. I think he's going to be a very good player. But I've watched his game, and he's got some great skill. But a lot of that stuff he does, it will not go in the NHL. A lot of the moves he makes, I like him. I think he's going to be good. But for people to say he's the next Gretzky, he's the next McDavid, no.
Hello,
you can't
Lance.
put that on
Lance,
a player.
okay. So basically, I don't know if you follow the NBA, but basically, this guy Victor Wembanyama.
Yep, Wembanyama.
Right? I spent 2 hours in for the beginning of the entire ESPN production just talking about it, okay? And a guy like him, yes, he's from like who knows where, and this is like a big moment. He made his money, so he doesn't even care in a sense if he succeeds or not. He made himself. He's made. That's it.
Yep.
They like start talking about how great he's going to be and all that, and I keep saying how when you take a player that's on one level, he was in France, and he's going to have to adjust the NBA. The NBA players are more prepared. The NBA players have dealt with a guy like Kristaps Porzingis before, and they've made game plans for guys that are 7'3", 7'5". The fact that he can make more movement or do something like that, he has to watch out for rules that are not in France. He's not playing with the same skill around him, so that means the players around him could go too fast for him, or screens could be set. But let's advance that to the NHL. Connor Bedard's talent, in my idea, he's somebody that I think could develop to be a very good player, especially
I agree.
And this has nothing to do with what he could do, but the fact of the effort that he puts in. And if you watch how much work and drive he has for hockey, that's the most impressive thing I thought about Connor Bedard. It's nothing to do with his play necessarily. It's how much drive that player has, where I say he's going to be a good player because of that. I look at other guys, especially Lafreniere, and I say that he doesn't have that drive. He's missing it. So he doesn't have that want to become better. I see that in the NBA about RJ Barrett. I see that in baseball about Gleyber Torres. I see that about a lot of different people where they are a great talent, and if they would put in the extra effort, they'll become better. A guy to me like Fantilli is going to be the better player for the first couple of years of his career because his talent is just naturally going to go into the NHL. At the end of the day, I think Bedard in 4 or 5 years, you'll look back and say, that was a great 1-2 punch right there.
I see Bedard as being a Jack Hughes type of guy, maybe a little better. People would say that about Jack Hughes. He's a generational talent, and I like Jack Hughes. I really do. I think he's a great young player. He's grown, but I would definitely agree with you there. I think that the difference between Nail Yakupov and Bedard was Yakupov didn't give a crap. He had all this talent and didn't give a crap. Bedard really cares, and he does work hard. I think he's going to be a great player. But I'm with you. I hate it when they put labels on these guys. The next Bobby or the next Gretzky.
No, that's because, Lance, why do they do that? Why are they doing that? No, more than that. It's not just hype. Let me explain to you something. If I tell you that the number one pick is going to be, hey, Arrow with ESPN now, and the first pick, who's it going to be? It's Connor Bedard. Okay, no information. It's going to be a good player. No, you got to walk in and say, hey, we have a guy, the next Gretzky. He's the next first pick. Did you see who the Hockey News had him compared to? No, don't tell me. Guy, I'm going to – no. Yes. Guy's going to tell me – no. Guy's going to tell me somebody I absolutely hate. Go. Maybe. No, maybe. Yes. Just say yes. No, because I'm not 100% sure if you hate this guy or not. I hate the guy. Sidney Crosby. Yes, Do I have to like? I said I hate the guy. Okay, you think I didn't figure that out? Happens to be that guy. You know this from the Blues and their rookies. And from in general their drafting. We discussed this about a long time ago. The success of teams developing players. The Blues have not been the greatest at that.
Actually, I disagree with that. I think
no, they've been great. They've been great at drafting. We're talking about developing.
No, even in developing. I mean, you go back and you look at some of the players that are on the team now. They have done better at developing than
in the past couple of years. Yes, in the past couple of years. I'll give you that.
No, I will say that I don't think that Berube is the right coach for a young team. I could be wrong, but at the moment, I don't think he is.
Right, but that's exactly why I believe that Fantelli is going to be better because look what team he's going to.
Yeah.
He's going to a Ducks team with already no pressure because, in a sense, he could land up in a lineup with so many talented players that is just a developing team that in a couple of years is going to be great. Well, the Blackhawks don't really have much for Bedard to play with.
The problem is, I disagree with the no pressure.
Why is that no pressure? I know you're taking two, so there is that pressure.
You know why I say what? No. I say
I want you to look down at the latest comment. ACG
I know. I seen it. I
love it.
I think that there's going to be more pressure than you think there is, and the reason I say that,
that's a good one.
What happened in Chicago the day after they won the draft lottery? Do you remember what happened in Chicago the day after they won the draft lottery?
What?
They sold some 5,000 season tickets the next day. Mm-hmm. There is going to be pressure on this guy from the fan base. And I think that we know that while most people say the fan base doesn't matter, the fan base doesn't matter. 18-year-old kids, the fan base matters. They read that shit. They and you hear it time and time again. You hear it. In fact, listen to what Pronger said. Listen to what Pronger said after his draft. You know, when Geigel, made that comment, no one remembers who who number two is. That those guys know that stuff matters to them and it's viable to them, right? And that's what it comes down to.
Is that really you, Lou, or somebody?
No, it's not. It's not. Hey, Lou Corrick doesn't like me at all. Lou Corrick will never watch this show. Will never be on this show. He has told me in not so many words, and like on my birthday, he ignored the fuck out of me. So. Yeah,
he called me a shock jock because I disagreed with things.
He called me a fanboy.
No, you're farthest away from a fanboy.
Right? He called me a fanboy.
He hasn't told me anything yet, so I'm.
Yeah, well, you don't know.
I'll tell him about you, and maybe he'll pass it on to you.
Okay, thank you. I'm just looking forward to that name. I'm just trying to figure out what he'll do. You know what I mean? Like, I always found when people say like when you say your name to me to them, and they go, "Can I call you this?" and you go like, "Look, I've been called 4-letter words before. People have called me a son of a. You could call me whatever you want."
No. I mean, man, what a great man. The last two shows have been really, really positive, strong shows. I got to admit. So here's what my plan is. I will be on for the entirety of the draft, both days, right? I am hesitant to announce this because I don't know 100% if it's going to happen, but I will say this. I have a friend, somebody that I know very, very well, that's been on this show in the past that is going to be at the draft. He is going to try and get me interviews from Blues players in the first round. He will only be at the second and part of the third round, so we probably won't get anything from that. But there is a chance that I could get short interviews from Blues draft picks during the day. But I'm going to stay on for the entirety of the draft. I'm going to come on Thursday. It's like 4 a.m. here.
Yeah.
What time's the draft by us?
The draft is 6 Eastern.
Yeah, 6 Eastern.
On
that's
Wednesday.
The start of the draft? That's the start of the draft?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great for me. All right.
So I'm going to come on.
I was going to go because Nashville's only 4 hours from me.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I already made a prior commitment on my new company I'm working with, the Hockey Podcast Network. that I just moved my podcast over to. They're going to have a big draft show with about 30 different podcasts on it. So I'm going to try to go on that. But I may change my mind and go because it wouldn't cost that much to drive down there and get in.
Well,
There's
I've heard the
available.
tickets for it are pretty expensive.
Nope, I found it's 2 online for $32 a piece.
Okay. Well, he has, the guy that I know is going has a press pass.
Oh, cool.
So,
The only draft I'll be going to is the one for my fridge.
I was just going to say that when you said that. Yeah.
well, I mean, I'm looking forward to the draft. I want to see what Armstrong's going to do. Like I said, I like Benson. I know he's not a reach at 10 because he's ranked 8th.
No, he's not a reach.
And I don't have a problem bouncing the 2 spots because I think in realistically, it's not going to cost you that much to get to 2 spots.
I will tell you
We've
this.
seen it in the past. We've seen it in the past. In fact, the Blues dropped a couple of spots one year.
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
Right, and the year that they got, I think it was Robert Thomas.
They got Thomas. Yeah, the year they got Thomas. Yeah.
Thomas. They also they dropped 2 spots to get Thomas, and then they made another trade.
Yep.
Because to get Costin, they ended up getting the last pick of the draft and got Costin. That's where we the trade with Pittsburgh, where we traded Ryan Reeves away.
I will tell you one thing. I'll be shocked if the Blues keep all 3 of those first-round picks.
Yeah, I think. Well, we already know that they're looking at trading 24 or 25.
Well, I honestly believe that the only way you're trading a draft pick, especially because you're a team that's sort of rebuilding, you know what I mean? Because of that, I feel like at the end of the day, you need to realize that whoever you're bringing in cannot be a short-term player. A guy like Kevin Hayes is a guy you probably want for 2-3 years. You don't want a guy.
My problem is the money.
Hey, look, we're trading.
Kevin Hayes is not worth $7.1 million, even if you're only paying half of that.
Look. If you look at the top players available for trade, which in my mind, dude, it's pretty much the Brinket and Toffoli and Hellebuck. Those 3 players, you don't need Hellebuck. Okay, Toffoli's going to a team that already needs a completed player that. Like already a playoff team, and the same with the Brinket. Those are 2 players that are not going to be moving to a team that's still building. The players that are available outside of that are going to be available for trade may not be names that people really care about. You know what I mean? Those are players that maybe just be players that you would just love to build your system around that are just free from other teams. Whether that's some random young players on the Maple Leafs who they want to go ahead and get a pick or whatever it is, there are teams that are looking to stock up on draft picks who may not have. By the way, there are teams out there, and by the way, one of them is the Rangers. Don't have draft picks out there.
The Blues The Blues, for the most part, first of all, let me say a big thank you to Erickson Krieger, Jason Nichols, Gloria Seeper, Marilyn Listener, Alexandro Monton, John Pinner, and Justin Keeling for putting that thumbs up on Facebook. If you did it on YouTube, I greatly appreciate it. For me, I look at the Blues, and the Blues have gotten very, very good at drafting in the 20s because that's where they've been the majority of the last 10 years, right? They've been in that 20 range. They've been a good team that's had to draft in that range, and they've gotten, for the most part, some pretty good guys. If I tell you who the last guy the Blues drafted at number 10, it would make you scared about this 10th pick.
One second. I think I know. 1 second. The last time that one second. Was the last time that they had a top 10 pick?
It's been a while, but he's still in the league. He is currently in the league. I think he was 10. It was the last time the Blues had 3 draft picks. He may not have been 10. He might have been, but in that higher range.
I mean, the Blues have not had a top 4 pick in the last at least decade. So it has to be between 5 and 10.
Yeah, Armstrong's never had a top 10 pick. Armstrong didn't pick. John Davidson picked. I can't think of his name now. Trangelo. Trangelo was our 4th pick. Right.
Right, Petrangelo was in.
Right.
Yeah,
I might have this guy. Where? Let me look it up real quick. He is a current player. I'm going to pull it up here in a second.
I mean, in 2006, I think you guys got Eric Johnson.
Actually, so this guy. So maybe I'm a little wrong. This guy went 18th overall. But let me see here.
That was the Avalanche. That was the Avalanche.
Okay, so actually, so the last time the Blues had 3 draft picks in the first round, and they picked all 3. They had the 13th overall pick, Lars Eller. Right? Good player, but not for the Blues. They also had at the number 26 spot, David Perron. No issue with that. At 18th, and actually I thought he was drafted higher, so this is my bad, was Ian Cole.
Yeah, we don't talk about Ian Cole.
And that's why when I look at high-end draft picks for the Blues, we haven't had the greatest. We haven't had the greatest track record.
Well, you've got to say this. Ian Cole has been a pretty good defenseman. He's been good for years, and he's always been like a number 2 pairing guy, and now he's like I think a 3rd pairing guy. But he's pretty good. Perron has been a good player.
He has some off the ice issues.
Ian Cole has some off ice. Ian Cole has off ice issues.
He was found not guilty.
He has other off ice issues other than that other thing.
No, they say he has some off ice. We're not talking about off ice issues like as a bad person in a sense. I think he's got some off ice issues with just with people.
No, he's been in. I thought he was in the player program.
He had alcohol problems. He had alcohol problems.
Huh?
He had alcohol problems.
Yeah, I think but I could be wrong with that. Right? Yes, that issue with Ian Cole and don't want to talk about that issue because I'm not talking about other things. No. Was dropped by the NHL because they couldn't prove anything. They couldn't find anything that person put out the one thing and ended it. They never put anything else. So
no, I'm not even discussing that problem. I'm saying in a sense that he just in general has been a off the ice problem type of player,
I also, from what I've heard, he wasn't a great teammate either. Right? At least that's
they took it quite well when he was when those things came out about him. I mean, they didn't exactly take it badly.
No, Tampa really stood up for him.
They stood up for him.
Well,
I mean, they don't do that.
Tampa did, but Pittsburgh didn't.
Well, Pittsburgh made a decision before they found out what really happened.
Right, and the Blues didn't make any comment on it whatsoever.
No, I wouldn't expect them to.
Right. So, but as far as so I don't want to get into the Ian Cole thing.
No,
I don't.
No.
I'm just saying that when it comes to high end draft picks, the Blues don't have the greatest. The greatest track record. That's all I was trying to get at. In fact, let's go back. Let's do this real quick. We can go back through the draft picks the last couple of years, the last 10 years. Let's do that. How about we do that, right? Let's go back to the last 10 years. So last year, right? Snugard. I mean, last year still, no one's. We got time on them guys, right? Snugard, Comiskey, Buchaning, Koromozlov, Marc-Andre Goulet. Goulet, I've heard good things about. And Landon Sim. 2 years ago, Bolduc, 17th overall. Robertson, Galloway, Bobroy. Bolduc, is probably going to be on the Blues this year, if not next year. Then we go 2020, Neighbors, on the Blues. Dylan Peterson, I've heard nothing about. Leo Loof could be on the Blues, but he has he has some issues with his Sweden team, his European team. Tanner Dixon, he might have been let go. I'm not sure, though. Matthew Kessel. Kessel will probably be on the Blues this year. Will Cranley. Cranley, we're starting to hear good things out of. Noah Buck, I've heard nothing. Beck. Then you go to 2019. This is where you start seeing these guys migrate to the team. Alexandrov will be on the Blues this year. Colton Ellis will be a backup very soon for the Blues. Borcharok, I don't know. He's a center. I don't know anything about him. Vadim Zerjinko, he will probably be a backup for the Blues or on the Blues very soon, if not traded to someone that needs a goalie.
I don't think Kit Kessel plays many games with the Blues this year. He's a year away.
Oh, I mean, he had a cup of coffee last year. Yeah, I think he gets more than that this year.
He might, but he's not going to be here full time.
Okay, but I see him getting more than a cup of coffee.
He should, yes, he should.
Okay, and then we go to 2018. Dominic Bach, he's out of the league. We traded him away. Prunovich, been injury prone. Hoffer will be our goal this year. McGain has had games and could see more games. He got a cup of coffee. Could see more this year. Lafayette, I don't know what's going on with him. Matthias Lafayette, I think they just signed him to his entry level this year or last year. Tyler Tucker's gotten some games, and then we get into the big draft.
Tyler Tucker.
Right, then we get into the big draft, 2017. Now this draft, we got some guys. Robert Thomas, Clem Costin, Torpachenko, David Noel, Trenton Bork, and Anton Anderson. Those were 5th, 6th, and 7th picks. I haven't heard nothing from them. Then you get into 16. 16, you got some pretty solid players. You had Tage Thompson, Jordan Kyrou, Evan Fitzpatrick. Now, Fitzpatrick has had some issues, but could see time with the team soon. Right? Tanner Kaspick. Tanner Kaspick might be the one they didn't keep, I think. Dolan Stevens, Connor Beckley, Nikola Christensen. Haven't heard anything about him.
Connor Bleakley was the guy I was talking about earlier that played for the Avs. It was drafted by the Avs.
Drafted by us?
Yeah, they were drafted by the Avs, and then he went back into the draft.
Back into the draft?
Yeah.
Right. Philip Help. Right? Don't know nothing about him. And then we'll stop at 15. I think that's the last year we'll go. 15, Vince Dunn.
Pretty good.
Adam Mussel, Glenn Gadwin, Nico Mikola, Luke Opekla, and Liam Dundra. I think Opekla is like really close to being in the league. Am I right or wrong on that?
He might see some time, but I would say he's a year away.
Right. Well, he was drafted in 15. I mean, he should be more than a year away.
I understand what you're saying. I
shouldn't be a year away, but
I just think that he's one of those. He's like, I'm not saying that they're the same player, same position, but he's a guy like Nolan Stevens who's just a guy.
So I'm looking, the Blues, the last time they had a top 10 pick, the closest they've had to a top 10 pick was 14 and 16, Schwartz and Tarasenko. And I think they knocked it out of the park with those two.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right? Their number 4 pick, Pietrangelo, I think they knocked it out of the park with that one. That was in 2008. And then, the number 1 overall pick, Eric Johnson, that wasn't a swing and a miss. I'll call that a double.
Hey, he's a good player.
Right? Yeah, but for number 1 overall, there's some guys in that draft.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't Taze in that draft or Kane?
Yes. Taze was in that draft. Who else was in the first round?
There's a lot of players in that.
Here you go. Jordan Stahl was second. Taze was in that draft. Backstrom was in that draft. Phil Kessel was in that draft. Bassard, Kyle Lepesco. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I'm looking at that, just right there. I mean, we got Bergeron with the 25th pick. Right? I think that was not as great of a draft as we could have had. Right? We should have had a much better draft than what we did in that one, at least in my eyes. Right? Yeah, you can't. I'm looking down to see when was the last time we had you got to remember so I'm old enough, and I think, Lance, you might remember this. When free agency first came in, right, in the 90s, the owners didn't want it, but they put it in, and they put it in a way, they put it in to appease the players, but they put it in a way that owners wouldn't go after it if you drafted somebody. And this wasn't a restricted free agent. This was a free agent, right? It cost you 5 first-round draft picks.
It was a backdoor agreement that, yeah, you can do it, but we're going to make you pay if you do it.
Yeah, and the Blues went and did it, and they didn't have first-round draft pick for a very, very long time, like 10 years.
Long time.
Like 10 years. They went 5 years without one, got one, and then went another 5 years.
Yeah, it was a long
So
time.
the last time they drafted in the top 10, I got to go all the way back to 89, not counting number 4 or number 1, those there. They had Jason Marshall, who ended up playing 526, a defenseman. Had a pretty good career, 526 games, 1,000 penalty minutes in the late 80s, early 90s, right? They had, now this one I think that they had a hit a home run with, Rod Brindamore, right? The last number 10 overall pick was 1986, Jocelyn Lemieux. Right winger, 164 points.
He was.
Okay. I'll say that was a single.
Yeah, he was okay.
Right.
He was a gritty player, a Blues type of player.
Yeah, but then I go, and then number 12, Rick Wilson. That was a swing and a miss, I think.
He was okay.
In '79, they got Perry Turnbull, number 2 overall.
Good player.
Right. 78, 3rd overall, Wayne Babbage.
Good player.
Right. They had in 78. They had a shit ton of draft picks.
Yeah,
but there were 14 rounds too.
Yeah.
Right. But but you're looking at 220 players, and now they're drafting in that same range, a little bit more, that same range in 7 rounds. So that has a lot to do with it. Number 9 in 77, Scott Campbell. Now, here's one where they hit it out of the park. 7th overall pick, Hall of Famer. Who is it?
Bernie Federico.
Yep. Who said that?
Me.
Lance? I didn't. I had you off. Hey, bud, I will check it. I'm getting ready to end the show here, though, very soon. Matt Lowe said, yeah, you read all the guys, but all the guys you read from 6 to 15 are pretty good picks. Army would have to try to mess this up to do so. Well, I mean, it's possible, right? Guys, thanks for joining me tonight, man. This was a really good show. I did 2 hours with Wendy the other night and Ashley, and now an hour and a half with you guys. Really, I mean, it's a good show, and I'll be on for the draft. You guys are more than welcome to come and join me.
I real quick, I want to ask Shaggy one thing. Yeah? I know the Rangers, what I'm hearing, they do not want to really keep Kane. I mean, they don't want to really bring him back around, but and I'm also hearing they want them to re-sign Tarasenko, but part of them says no. Are they still working on Tarasenko? Do they still have the interest that they did maybe a month ago?
I think that the draft will define a lot of that. Meaning, if you don't see them making a move then, I would say there's more chances they plan on re-signing some of these players. Because I do feel that the only way that they're really going to show you that they're interested in not signing these guys, and because they don't have the money and cap space to be able to go out and just sign guys. So because of that, the only way they're bringing back these guys is because they say, well, you want to come back to the Rangers for a good deal. So basically, you're going to get them on a better deal because you're coming back to the Rangers. So if you want to be a Ranger, you'll take whatever we give you. I think that they're more towards the Tarasenko side because I think they like Tarasenko and they believe that he fits more with what they did. And the reason when they brought him in, that he didn't know the system well enough to really do what he did. And my guess is that Tarasenko was just happy to get out, that I think he didn't really focus on wanting to win and things like that. So I think that they'd rather go into a year with Tarasenko starting. And after that, I don't think they'll make many bigger moves except for maybe trading Lafreniere to go ahead and get themselves a couple of players that they feel are more vital. I do feel they need another defenseman. So if they could do that, but they don't have a first-round pick. So they have nothing there. They traded.
We got it.
Right? The Blues got that. And
we have Dallas's first-round pick, didn't it? What would they do with their other pick? They traded away too?
No. They have their other first-round pick, I think, but it's late. I think if I'm right, I do not think.
Let me look.
Let me just see again. Yeah, the Rangers do have a pick. It's the 23rd pick. But again, with that 23rd pick, whoever they pick is not really going to be vital to this year. Mm-hmm. So I actually think if you see them trade that 23rd pick, you'll be seeing them trade for whoever is going to be their big offseason move. That'll be their big off-season move. They'll take a 23rd pick and maybe Lafreniere or something like that, package it together for a player because they're a win-now team. They're not building for the future. They have guys like Zibanejad and Kreider, and for if they re-sign Tarasenko, I think they have a higher interest in Tarasenko because of the fact that they think they could do well with him. I think Patrick Kane was there just because of a playoff run. Panarin's a guy that I feel they're going to put a big pressure on to do better this year. So I actually feel that they should take that pick and combine it with someone to give Panarin the best teammate possible that he could have and build two solid, good lines and then work out that third and fourth line with, you have guys like Othman and guys like that who are in, wherever playing and doing pretty well. So you make those third and fourth lines young, exciting players, and you build those first two lines. I think their interest in Tarasenko is going down by the day because I do think that the price for Tarasenko is only going up because of the fact that when I looked at the top free agents available, Kane's an injury and an old guy, and Tarasenko's been pretty healthy and pretty good. So I think Tarasenko's market would be amazing out there.
That's the one thing when they talk about, the top free agent being Barbashev, I'm like, really?
No, Kane. The reason why he's the top free agent out there is because of the amount, because he's a player that you're not paying top dollar to, but yet he's going to give you production for what you're paying. That's going to be just ridiculous.
Oh, they're talking about him getting 6, 7, 8 million now. So
I don't know if that happens.
That's not going to happen. I'm being told
that's not happening.
I'm being told 5 to 5.5, and I want to tell you one thing. O'Reilly, let's get to Ryan O'Reilly real quick. Ryan O'Reilly says all the nice things. Unless he wants to take a $4 million a year, $4.5 million a year deal, he's not coming back to Toronto. I know it's a feel-good story, and he loves the team there. He's not going back to Toronto unless he takes a real low.
If you look at the top free agents available,
I don't think he fit. To be honest, I don't think he fit in Toronto.
Do you look at the top free agents available, and you want to look at based on cap hit. So I have it in front of me based on cap hit and stuff like that. So Kane and Taves are supposed to be the biggest cap hit, but I think Taves actually will sign a very small deal with Chicago because he's retiring. I think Kane also signs a very small deal with Chicago. At the end of the day, I actually think he goes back to Chicago and maybe plays maybe a year or two more, and that's it. I don't think he plays more than that. His injuries have shown that he's slowing him down and not playing well. He proved it last year. He was on a team with so much talent around him, and he wasn't healthy, and he couldn't even play at 50%. So that just shows you when you're getting old. If you look at the guys after that, you have Ekman Larson, Riley, Tarasenko, Van Riemsdyk.
You forgot Orlov too. He's one out.
And Orlov, right. No, I have Orlov a little lower down. I have Orlov around. He's a smaller cap hit. I'm going in order of cap hit. So he's a smaller cap hit. These are the highest. The top 5 highest cap hits are Kane, Taves, who I believe are actually not so much of a cap hit in a sense because they're going to take stinky deals just to be on a team. I think that Ekman Larson will get a really good deal. I don't think Vancouver signs him back. I don't think so.
Actually,
he's going to be one of the biggest moves for a team. I could see very much a guy like surprisingly like If Detroit cannot get to Foley, they could maybe go after Ekman Larson. Maybe that's a team that's a really good fit for him over there. And Ben Riemsdyk's a guy who I think is on such a downfall. I don't think he's doing well. I think he actually is going to get a very small deal. And they put him at such a big cap hit, and I think people don't realize that he's actually not going to do that great. And then after that, you got Klingberg, who I think will stay with the Stars, and I think Pacioretty will no longer play hockey game for the rest of his career.
Yep.
I compare him to the DeGrom of hockey. The main point here is that Tarasenko is probably the best free agent available that's health-wise and veteranship and talent-wise, and he's staying healthy, and it's not about his age is not that crazy, and you're not, between him and Ekman Larson, I would say those are the two best.
Yeah, no, I would kind of agree with you, but I think
that Klingberg is not, because Klingberg is getting re-signed by the Stars.
A 30-goal right wingman to me is better than a 31-year-old left defenseman.
The only guy I actually believe will get actually a really good deal, and they don't have him down here as a good deal, and this is for the Islander fans out there. I think Varlamov is going to get himself a really good deal.
Yeah.
I think he's a guy who will get – I could even see I look at teams that have made the playoffs, but the goalie was the problem. I like to look at the Oilers. I might be crazy, but what would happen if you tell Varlamov, put Varlamov behind a team that will give you as many goals as you want compared to a team where he was on the Islanders team who was always bottom 5 in scoring? Could you imagine Varlamov, who, by the way, was an excellent backup for them, behind, by the way, a Vezina top guy, a guy who was always in the question of Vezina trophy the past couple of years, and you get to play behind McDavid in that. And by the way, you could keep Lindgren, not Lindgren. What's his name again? Not Charlie Lindgren. Who is their starter again? Whoever their starter was. What?
Talking about Edmonton starter?
No, the Edmonton starter.
Jeff Skinner?
Skinner, yeah, and you could put Skinner behind him, and Skinner will do much better at it. He's a young guy; he'll do much better behind him. So whoever you're putting behind him, Varlamov is a veteran. He's a guy who wants to win and get a cup. And I think Varlamov, if I'm the Oilers, is a big thing because I think Hellebuck will cost them too much for them to actually get him there. I think Hellebuck will land up. I think personally, if the Maple Leafs were able to get Hellebuck, that would be the number one thing they could get because that's the dream guy in my imagination for them. I think actually Hellebuck will land up. Interesting enough, I think he'll land up with a team that we will not expect. He will be a very big surprise to where he goes to. A team will just risk it all to just bring him in.
Yep.
Weirdly enough, can the Ducks maybe do that to Hellebuck? Can the Ducks say, bye-bye Gibson, let's bring in Hellebuck. You're both veterans, but the fact is, we're up and rising team.
Yep.
But, he's going to cost. He's really going to cost. Hellebuck, they're going to overprice Hellebuck.
Sure they are.
But again, I think Guy will agree. Tarasenko is the best free agent available for people to really go after, and the Rangers know that. So their interest is high in him. But every day that goes on, I think that people look at it and go, 1 second, he's really maybe our best option. I think it's very, very possible. And last but not least, the other guy that could really get a very, very good deal. No.
I do think Tarasenko is one of the top free agents out there, and I do think I don't think he's going to get the same money. I think he's going to take less, but it's all going to be term, right? I think that's what it comes down to is term with him. I just don't see. The thing is because the salary cap hasn't moved, these guys got paid their current contracts based on a projected salary cap that's not there now.
Right.
And I think that has a lot to do. I think a lot of guys need to understand that.
You know which guy's going to get a good deal? Guy, you're not going to be happy with this one, but you know which guy's going to get a very good deal?
Who?
Akari.
Maybe. I mean,
I'm not talking about amount. He's going to get a very good deal. He's going to get a deal that is going to be very much where you'll say, I wish the Blues had him for that price.
I'd like to see. We'll see. I mean, we had him for damn near the league minimum.
Correct. I think.
But again, we told him, according to Armstrong, come here, we're going to win, and we came here and we lost. So he wouldn't come back here anyways. I didn't have an issue with the Akari trade. I thought that getting something for him was the right move. Well, guys, been a great show. I can't say how much. Let me say a big thank you to Marianne Holmes. She added that on. And I think I did a lot better handling the trolls today than I normally do. You know what, Mike? I know you love this hat, but there's no amount of money I would take for it. I know. I wish I knew how many they made of this thing. But, the only thing that I'm going to try and do now is get it signed by Ryan O'Reilly. If I can get that, then this goes in with my Mike Hoffman dirt, right? I'd have to be homeless to sell this hat, to be honest, right? I'm sorry, Lance. I mean, you can't find this hat anywhere.
I know.
Right? I mean, you go look for this hat online. You cannot find it anywhere. And I don't know many people that have it.
It matches your personality. You don't know many guys like Guy. You don't know many people like Guy out there. You don't even know if it exists.
Right? It's just I'm not gonna take. It's there. And if that was a pure offer, then maybe I would have to think about it. Right? You show me $200K in cash, and then you know what, I could give the hat up, but it'd have to be in cash. There's no way I'd give it up either other way. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Shags, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Hopefully, if you can come on during one of my 2 draft shows, please, pop in, let me know, and I'll send you a link. Lance, but on my draft shows, Lance, do not drop in. Just come in the bottom, but let me bring you in the top.
That's fine. I'll just let you, if I come on, I'll let you know.
Yeah. I have to say that because I don't know. I have to make sure that I'm keeping room available if I get a chance to talk to one of these draft picks. Have to make sure that that's available, that I can do that. I'm hoping Ashley can join us too. I think it's going to be a fun day. 3 first-round picks. What are you going to do? And then to me, if you're trading one of those picks, get an NHL ready now guy. And I mean a guy that's worth it. And for me, and I'll say this, I don't think Hayes is. Right? You said you wanted to get younger. Get younger. Don't get a 31-year-old that you got to pay $7.1 million, or even if you're paying half of that for 3 more years when you say we're not going anywhere. If he's managing expectations, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel like he's managing expectations. I feel like he truly believes we're going nowhere. Then a Hayes deal doesn't make anything for me. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. Lance, have a great night. Where can you find your podcast at, Lance?
You can find my podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. I think it's hockeypod.com. Just look up Hockey Podcast Network, and you can find it there along with about 30 other NHL podcasts. You can also find us on Twitter at Drop Hockey Show, and you can also email me at lanced@droppodcast.com.
Right. And Shags, how can they find you, bud?
Twitter. You have Twitter? It on the description under my name, by my name.
There you go. You can find Shaggy on Twitter if you want to get a hold of him. And you can find me on Facebook and YouTube at the BlueNote Fan Report or Guy Benson. You can find me on Twitter at stlfanreport.com or STL Fan Report, HISTL Fan. I think that's it. HISTL Blues Fan. There we go. Or Blue Note Report. And, hopefully by the beginning of this season, I'm going to have my website back up. Cool. Right. I'm looking to, I might be writing for Full Press Hockey. At least I'm hoping to. I'm trying to get back in and get my account back with them and start writing for them again. So maybe, we'll do something with the show. And I'm going to try and be home for the home opener.
Oh, nice.
I am going to try and be home for the Blues home opener. I have not been at a home opener since 1992. And I think it's time. I'm going to try and be home for that and maybe some other games throughout the month of October. I'm just waiting for the schedule to come out. Try and set what I'm going to do and do some shows around St. Louis and have some fun. My live shows you guys seem to enjoy. So we'll see you then. Everyone, this is Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, saying aloha, mahalo, and you got to know. What do you got to know, boys?
Hawaii Blues fan, we're bleeding blue with you. Let's go, Blues! Let's go, Blues! Let's go, Blues!